Why some people tell you nothing about themselves.
You know someone like this. You've talked to them many times, maybe for years. You trust them. You feel comfortable around them. But if someone asked, who are they, really? You would not know what to say. Because when you think about it, they never actually told you anything real. Not what they fear, not what they regret, not what keeps them awake at night. They ask questions. They listen well. They make you feel understood. But the moment the conversation turns to them, they slip away. You ask, how have you really been? They smile and say, same as always. What about you? And just like that, you're talking again. That is when it starts to feel strange. Because this is not just privacy. Sometimes, when a person tells you nothing about themselves, they are not being quiet. They are protecting distance. And the unsettling part is this. You can know someone for years and still know only the version of them they chose to show you. Most people call this reserved. But that word is too soft, because real secrecy is not passive. It is managed. It is controlled. And once you see the pattern, you start to notice something deeper. Some people are not hiding information. They are hiding access. 1. They control how close you get. This is the first thing most people miss, because it does not look like control. It looks like calm. It looks like confidence. It looks like self-respect. They do not overshare. They do not complain much. They do not make scenes. So people assume they are simply private. But watch more carefully. You ask them something personal, and they give you an answer that sounds complete, but is not. Not enough to seem rude. Not enough to seem suspicious. Just enough to shut the door politely. That is the pattern. They are not stopping the conversation. They are steering it. They decide how much you get to know, how close you get to feel, and where the line is that you are not supposed to cross. And because they do it smoothly, most people never notice the line at all. That is why it works. 2. They learned that openness can be used against you. Most people like this were not born this guarded. At some point, they were more open. They trusted someone. They explained themselves. They said what they really felt, and it cost them. Maybe they were laughed at. Silence starts to feel smarter, safer, cleaner, less expensive. So they adapt. They stop speaking freely. They stop showing uncertainty. They stop giving people material that can later be turned into a weapon. Not because they have nothing inside, but because life taught them that once people know where you are soft, some of them will press exactly there. And after enough disappointment, a person stops asking, why should I hide? They start asking, why should I risk it again? 3. They keep you talking so you do not notice. This is where the pattern becomes harder to see. People who reveal very little about themselves are often good at making other people talk. They ask smart questions. They remember details. They seem present. And people like that, because being heard feels personal. It feels warm. It feels close. So you leave the conversation thinking something meaningful just happened. But stop and ask yourself, what did you actually learn about them? maybe almost nothing. That is what makes this pattern so effective. It does not feel cold. It feels good. You say, "This year has been rough." They nod. They look at you carefully, then they say, "Yeah, a lot of people are carrying more than they show." It sounds deep. It sounds honest. But notice what just happened. You still learned nothing about them. Again, the attention stayed on you. And slowly, over time, this creates a strange kind of relationship. You feel seen by them, while never really seeing them back. That is not always manipulation, but it is distance disguised as connection. 4. They fear what happens when someone really sees them. This is the deeper reason. Because once someone truly sees you, you lose control over the story. They can see your weak points, your contradictions, your insecurity, the parts of your life that do not fit the image. And once that becomes visible, judgment becomes possible. Rejection becomes possible. Disappointment becomes possible. For some people, that risk feels too high, so they choose a safer life strategy. Stay respected, but not fully known. Stay liked, but not fully understood. Stay present, but never exposed. From the outside, this can look like strength, and sometimes it is, but not always. Sometimes it is fear that learned how to behave well. 5. The worst part. After a while, they do not know what is real anymore. This is where the cost gets deeper. When a person spends years managing what others see, something starts to happen inside. They get good at editing themselves. At first, they only hide certain things. Then they hide whole feelings. Then whole reactions. Then whole parts of their history. After a while, they are not just filtering for other people. They are filtering for themselves. They stop saying what they really feel. Then they stop checking what they really feel. Then one day, they are not even sure anymore. You ask a simple question. What do you actually want? And they cannot answer. Not because they are hiding a dark secret, because they have spent so long staying unreadable that even they no longer have clear access to what is real inside them. That is the part people rarely understand. Secrecy does not only hide pain. Over time, it can blur identity. And once that happens, a person is no longer just protecting themselves from others. They are becoming a stranger to themselves. 6. It protects them, and then it isolates them. This is the final trade. Yes, this strategy protects you. It reduces risk. It avoids embarrassment. It keeps difficult people at a distance. But protection always costs something. Because when people never feel invited into your real life, they eventually stop trying to enter it. They keep things polite, surface level, functional. You become easy to deal with, but hard to truly know. Reliable, maybe. Respected, maybe. But emotionally far away. And after enough years, that distance becomes your normal life. What started as self-protection turns into isolation. Not always dramatic isolation. Sometimes it looks ordinary. You have conversations. You go to work. You show up. You function. But no one really knows what is happening inside you. And eventually, that private world can become so sealed that even genuine connection starts to feel uncomfortable. That is when the strategy turns against them. Because a person can spend years trying to avoid being hurt and end up creating the exact loneliness they thought they were protecting themselves from. Being private is not always a problem. Sometimes it is wisdom. Sometimes it is dignity. Sometimes it is the only way a person knew how to survive. But sometimes it becomes a prison that looks like self-control. A habit that feels safe. A wall that gets praised as strength. So the next time you meet someone who tells you almost nothing about themselves, do not rush to call them mysterious. And do not rush to call them strong. Because sometimes, the people who reveal the least are not protecting peace. They are protecting a version of themselves that would fall apart if anyone ever saw it clearly. This is the if verse, where silence hides more than words. Subscribe. There's so much more to explore. Thank you for watching.